So overall, it's just a bit too much chess. But maybe someday I'll get back to it. Okay, so d4 and knight f6. Let's try and go for a Gruenfeld. An opening I'm not seeing that much, especially at the club level. But yeah, it's a fun opening. It's a fun opening. It's a very demanding opening, I think, in terms of the tactics, the tactical lines. No surprise that somebody like Jan Nepomniachtchi, highly tactically gifted player, is a big fan of such an opening. c5. This in general we don't consider a good idea because you know, let's say in the classical line, c takes d5 here, knight takes d5. What white is doing is exchanging the c4 pawn for the d5 pawn, and that actually gives him 2 pawns on the central files against 1, which is considered a slight positional plus because central pawns tend to matter more than lateral pawns. But with this c5 move, you open yourself up to getting targeted here on b5. And if you think about it, from this position, what's actually happened is this, and for me, this and this. So basically, what's happened is I've lost the a pawn and he's lost the c pawn. And I've also inserted this move, b6. So it's not a good approach for him to go like this and spend so much time to, in essence, just win my a7 pawn. It's not a good trade-off. Of course, it also gives me the semi-open file. So we can already claim that, objectively speaking, black is a little bit better here. But of course, that's not a major it's not a huge consideration when you're playing, you know, a 10-minute game. Anything can happen, and you know, there are bigger advantages have been blown than this slightly better central situation for black. Now I'm actually tempted to play c4 myself. There's a difference between c4 here. I mean, I was saying don't do this, and now I'm potentially doing this. But I had an idea. If he went b3, I wanted to go b5, and if he took my pawn, I had this move queen check when knight c3 is not available, so he'd be losing a piece. And if we get this exchange instead, then I'd have kept a protected central pawn. Now I'm thinking maybe I can just castle here. Still b3 is not an option because of b5, but now b3 starts to become an option, and I don't want to take. I want to be able to play the move b5, which means that I'm going to try some kind of a move here. The problem with this, maybe I was too quick to castle. No, e5 like this, I think it's okay. Okay, let's go bishop to d7. If e4, I don't really want to take because then this pawn, one of these pawns would fall. Now I'll go e6 or bishop e8. I could try and fight to keep this guy, but I don't think that it's such a big deal. If he does capture my bishop, I'll capture back with the queen. My position is quite solid, and at the end of the day, this is his most active piece. So it's not a bad deal for me to exchange it. He goes for a little pin there, but I'm not sure that it's such a big deal for me. I don't think it creates any particular threats. Maybe in some situations, some e4, where in that case I cannot take because if knight takes. I'm not so much interested in capturing it anyway, because what I'm interested in actually right now is conserving this structure. And my idea is that if I can at some point play b4, this is a better structure for me. Basically, I have more space on the queen side. I have a more compact pawn chain. I have one singular pawn chain, whereas he's got one and then a second pawn chain here. So my structure is a little bit better in terms of both space and compactness. So that's kind of the big asset in my position, and that's the one that I'm trying to press in some way. Knight c6 would be nice if knight takes b5 directly, some knight takes and bishop takes b5 ideas. But what bothers me is first he takes here and then he takes here. And if I go rook b8 here in this position, he can go a4. And, well, I feel like I have some compensation there for sure, but not enough to just give a pawn, in a sense, willy-nilly. So what can I do here is the big question. The pin is more annoying than I at first thought, than I first considered. Maybe a move like queen to b6 here is kind of reasonable. Maybe also a move like queen c8. The advantage of queen c8 is that it keeps my bishop better defended and will facilitate moves like knight c6. The advantage of queen b6 is it keeps b5 defended. So that's kind of the judgment there. I'm gonna go for queen b6. Although I'm really, to be honest with you, I'm just playing because I need to. I need to play a move. There comes a point where it's better to just play a mediocre move than to not play a move at all, right? From the purposes for the purposes of the game in its entirety. F4 makes a lot of sense here, trying to create some play against the king side. And now I feel like I'd like to play this move, but he has this intermezzo, and the point is after I recapture, my bishop is hanging. That was sort of the benefit of having the queen here. So I could drop the queen back, or I could drop the bishop back, or I could defend the bishop. Really hard to say. I think I'm going to go in the end, and I'm going to drop the queen back. Although, no. It's very difficult. Maybe I'll actually drop the bishop rather than back. I'll put it forward here. Although, if I could keep this bishop, I kind of like it in terms of controlling certain light squares, like the breakthroughs here. It's kind of attractive from that perspective. The thing I don't like about this square is that I want to move this knight, ideally, and then bishop e7 is really very irritating. So I could go rook here and then put the bishop back. But then it feels like it's taking a little bit of time, a little bit too long, and he goes some g4, f5 stuff, and that's a little bit annoying to me. I could go knight back immediately, but again, the problem is this bishop e7, nonsense. So b4 is another option. Pawn takes, rook takes, and queen takes. I would be distracting his queen from potentially a kingside offensive, which I kind of like that. Especially because I'm not super concerned about this pawn potentially dropping. So I'm actually going to go ahead and make my breakthrough on the queen side. I'm not in love with this breakthrough because I would prefer that my pieces are somehow better coordinated. I would prefer that this bishop isn't potentially loose, because after this exchange, then it'll only have one defender. I would definitely prefer that my knight isn't on its starting square. And yeah, I guess that's enough things that I would prefer for now. Now after queen takes, I will go queen takes. I was initially hesitating because he does have some moves like queen a7, but I figure after queen takes b2, his knight on c3 will be hanging, so he's probably not going to do that. Here I feel like I better take care of the situation with this bishop. Maybe I could even throw in a move like h6. Yeah, I don't know. Let's go bishop. Let's go bishop here. I feel like somehow didn't handle the position so well, because I think I had a great position out of the opening, and somehow something went wrong. But again, it's one of those things where I personally have to see where I went wrong, because these moves, my moves have seemed quite natural overall. Somehow there's a little bit of pressure, but rook f2, the idea makes sense, covering b2, but at the same time it feels a little bit slow, a little bit passive. In chess, oftentimes, when you're not sure of what to do, let's say you're not quite sure what I should do on the queen side, what I should do in the center. One useful approach is try and figure out what are the best pieces that your opponent has. And once you find them, just try and get rid of them. So in this case, my idea is to challenge this knight and also to challenge the bishop. So f6 immediately is definitely a possibility, but his queen is kind of annoying me here. So I was also considering that move. f6, however, knight takes, bishop takes, bishop h4, and then some kind of move. Maybe, I don't really know. Let's get rid of the queen. Let us get rid of the queen. I'm guessing he'll take, otherwise he has to go a little bit backwards. And generally speaking, players who are... Oh, okay, he has not taken. I was too presumptuous, if I can say this. Let's go knight c6 maybe, but I don't like some bishop takes d5, although then I can take here, I think. And nevertheless, maybe I should clear the air. I think I should clear the air with this move f6 and ask the question of his of his best pieces. So we're now taking, yeah, the bishop comes there, and now I want some kind of development here. Knight c6 makes sense to me. If knight a4, I have queen b4. I'm quite happy with his bishop here being quite bad. One of the reasons, though, one of the things I really do want in this position is to exchange his queens, because the reason is twofold. First of all, endgames should be better for me because his structure is worse, and the structure often is felt the most in the endgame stage. But the second reason is because my king feels less safe than his king. I have a lot of kind of weak squares here. Sorry, it seems like I'm having some kind of disturb. Okay, so that is done. Yeah, so I have a bunch of weaknesses, like the queen on d6 here is coming after my weaknesses. This I don't like, and if rook here, knight takes, bishop takes is very scary. But if bishop there, it's even worse. I think I have to go rook f7. My opponent, to be honest with you, is just playing, unfortunately, too well for me to in this game. He started off very badly with a very poor opening choice, but since that moment he has been killing me. And here I have to go queen b7. I don't really see any other way to hold against the threat of queen takes d7 here. I felt if I went bishop here, no, but wait, why didn't I go bishop here? I should have gone bishop here. I don't know what I was thinking, actually. And he goes bishop takes. Wow. Wow. Okay. I feel like I have barely any squares. Let me go queen here. Yeah, but he's won a million pawns in his position. Even though I have the hope for now, I'm down a piece. But the problem is he'll be winning this exchange, like so. Yeah, the position is completely objectively lost. I'll have to check afterwards where exactly I went so wrong. But for now I have to beg with no real. Yeah, I have to beg with no hope. Begging with no hope is the worst kind of begging, right? Going bishop here. No, okay, it's not true that I don't have any hope. Hope is the last thing to die, as they say, but the position is very, very ugly. Bishop here actually maybe is just about giving me some kind of light in terms of confusing the matter, because if he goes queen d5, I'll go bishop e8, and I'll defend the rook, and for now he's not even threatening to take the rook because it's his queen in front and not his bishop. If he goes bishop takes f7 after king takes f7, what he has to worry about is where does he move his queen without letting me pick up this bishop. And certainly if I could take 3 minor pieces, even for a rook and 17 million pawns, that situation would not be so bad. What I'm expecting is probably some kind of queen move to activate this possibility. But, you know, there's 5 minutes on the clock, and stranger things have happened than to win from such a position. If this was an over-the-board game, I'd be putting on my resigning gloves. I'd be getting ready to resign quite soon, I guess. But in a blitz game, anything can happen. Wow, that's an amazing move, rook c2. The point is, if knight b4, he wants to take twice here and then win my queen. This is just very high-level stuff. Okay, what can I do? Let's just throw in a move like queen g4 here. What else to do? Yeah. Okay, some cheapos here with queen d1. But, well, I would be quite surprised if the cheapos worked. But you never know. He is burning up quite a bit of time on the clock. So I think for white, it's critical. I mean, at the end of the day, you have 4 pawns. but it's going to be 2 minor pieces probably. That's a clever move there, hitting both the bishop and this, and preparing this, I guess. So I'm going to go back and defending this guy. I think it's a very, very nice move. But I'm going back, queen d7, and I'm trying to stay alive here. 50 seconds on the clock. Oof. Goodness. This is a lot of pressure, this particular position here. Wow. This is a lot of pressure. Okay, let's just trying to stay alive here. But my opponent is being, one of the things that's a bit worrying is that he's being incredibly sort of patient in his approach. Normally, in my experience playing against sort of players around this kind of rating range, one of the flaws of their game, let's say that's I mean, we all have flaws, but one of the more typical kind of flaws. So here, wow. So here, has this been a big mistake potentially with some queen takes in the air or even some knight takes? Can I just take here? I guess he wants d5, but let's do it anyway. So he wants d5. Is this so horrible? Okay, let's go here, I guess. And now let's check. And maybe let's throw in this funky move here with a threat of mate. And the point is, if queen takes, then queen takes c2. This is the kind of move that might annoy. And if there, then bishop takes c6 was my tricky idea. If queen takes, now we're taking this rook, and he cannot actually defend the rook. So this was a little bit of a cheapo, setup there. Still can't relax because the game is, well, I'm very low on time, and my opponent has demonstrated, overall just very, very good play. Let's try and bring the queen back, and I've got, as I say, I've got 13 seconds. So the first step here is to try to avoid either open lines and go for the all-out, assault on the king, which I think makes some sense here. I'm going to actually try and get that in. And the other approach is to just play, can I take? I guess I'll take this way. Yeah, so I'm taking here, and now I'm actually going to go for the exchange of the queens. I'm more confident in this than in finding some kind of mating net. The biggest concern here has to be to not stalemate him. And the other thing is, I want to win this pawn cleanly, because otherwise to have to convert with just a rook is a lot harder to do. Now with king g1, I get immediate checkmate. So fantastic game by Madad, who really had me absolutely hating my position, to say the least. But in the end, I was happy that I was able to find these kind of interesting tactical resources and to swindle him. Essentially, that's what it was. But I got, after being given a big opening advantage, I relaxed, and he came up with some nice plans, some knight e5, f4, bishop g5, f4 stuff. And then the queen side got very, very complicated, the situation there. But he just outplayed me, to be honest with you. I was just outplayed for the majority of that game. So I'm just glad to have gotten back.